Have you ever been in a situation where you could have done with an objective observer to give you another point of view? Perhaps you needed a mediator. Join us for this episode of the Dawn Jarvis Show, where I'll be talking to Selina Morgan-Gayle about how you maintain your mental health through mediation. Selina is an accredited civil and commercial independent mediator, and she has founded the mediation service company SMG Mediation, which is an acronym for Settlement Through Mediation with Our Guidance. Selina is the first Black female multi-award winning mediator, and the mediation service company has been awarded the Mediation Champion of the Year 2018 and many other awards as well. Selina, it is so good to see you. How are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you, Dawn, for having me on today.
That's my pleasure.
I'm super excited to be here and just explain what I do and what I love doing.
Yeah, Selena and I actually met because I'm all about networking and my diverse nurse network. We met actually on LinkedIn and got a connection, and I was absolutely fascinated with what she does and the need for it, I guess, really. So tell us, Selena, tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
It's actually quite a short journey. I've always wanted to really study. I love knowledge. I love learning, and I love learning about how to use the law and apply it and help others. That's always been my thing. I've always done volunteering. I've always tried to find how I can support. I'm a natural giver.
Yeah.
So my journey really started from there. It was all what I wanted to do. I just wanted to learn, but I wanted to go to law school and become a barrister. So that was the career choice. I had many other things that I was good at, but I kind of saw it as like, that's what I'm good at, but this is what I want to do for my career. So my journey started really, kind of studying really. I went on to university, I studied law there. I then done a conversion course because I realized at the time that I was doing a BA law and you need an LLB, which is what I needed
Yeah.
to do. So I went and done that. So effectively I have two law degrees. Um, and then I went on to law school and trained to be a barrister. And it was really upon my journey on having and choosing to have a child and got pregnant and really kind of saw it as, can I do both? Can I really be the barrister I want to be and be this family woman? And it just kind of left me a bit conflicted in that sense. And then it took me to a place where it's like after I finished the barrister course, I decided to take on accreditation because it was an extra thing I can put on my CV.
Hmm.
And the law school was offering it at a discounted rate.
Hmm.
So I thought, why not?
Yeah.
Being the, really proud person of learning, I was like, yeah, let's just add this on. And then after a while, I just started to see that this is something I could really do. And after being in that conflict between wanting to be the family woman, wanting to be this person who also wanted to love their career and not take from being the person I am because now I'm a mother, because a lot of women do that, right? I was like,
Hmm.
I'm going to do both. And I really just kind of prayed on it. And that's when my spirituality really just took over. And God kind of said to me, you can do it through this way. This is what you need to do. Just get into it. And in 10 years' time, you really understand. I'm 8 years in,
Oh.
really understanding, and I'm able to do both. And it's just so much better to be in. I love barristers, I love what they do. Honestly, I wouldn't trade it. And it's funny me saying that because anyone that knows me would literally be like, what? Because that's all I wanted to do. But I'm able to do
Yeah.
both. I can apply the law without having to decide upon it and be on any side and the side of just resolution. And it's a great place to be. So, yeah, it was really becoming, a mother to being the family woman that I wanted to be at the time with my partner. And it was just, it took me here. This is the journey it brought to me. So, yeah, that's really the backstory of why I become a mediator from, still loving the law, still loving knowledge, but still being able to help people and be that family woman that I am.
Love it. Love that. That's great. There's a couple of things there because there's one thing about for me. There's one thing about you started one course because you thought that was going to take you to the road that you wanted to go, and then you realised that you needed to do another. Is that something that happens a lot?
I think it can be. I think if it's connected with mediation, it was very connected. It was offered to me in law school, so it wasn't like I went out to search for another course. I was done. I was
Mm.
like, I've got my law
Mm.
degree. I've trained to be a barrister. All I've got to do is do pupillage, and Go
Mhm.
when the law school offers you, and we were the first law school, so I went to BPP Law School and studied
Mhm.
law there.
Mhm.
So they offered it as an extra course to say, look, mediation is something you can, combine with
You
what
can
you're doing.
offer. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, if we're doing that, this sounds interesting. And, generally when law schools are offering things to kind of as a preemptive to help you and support you on your next step, at a discounted price as well, you just
Mhm.
kind of take it. And that's where it started. But now I've really become to realize that it was something that was part of my path. I didn't know at the time, but that
Mhm.
I've joined all the dots, and realized that was something that I needed at the time, even though I was just using it as an extra, thing on my CV to kind of give it the boost it needed.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I work with clients about and they're thinking about what they can do um, in their businesses, but it's important to think about what talents you've got and what qualifications you've got because it gives you extra resources that you can do other things and transferable skills is what they call it, so that you can utilize what you've already know in your business. So I really like that. The other thing I wanted to sort of like touch on was that I suppose there was a change. It wasn't a total change because you became a family person, you became a mother, and I think that happens to a lot of women as professional women, that something in their career changes when they start having a family, because I guess your priorities change. What would you think about that, Selena?
I would absolutely say that. Like, obviously, it was just my priority. It was me and a partner at the time, and although we were doing what we loved, at the time, and I don't think it deterred from that, I think it was just more about where my time was going. And I
Mhm.
knew that I would have to give up that time to be that career woman, but I also knew that I really appreciated that my mum stayed at home and looked after me, and
Mhm.
she had three jobs, and I never felt like she wasn't there. I
Mhm.
felt like I'm going to have one, and I feel like I'm not going to be there for my son. And it just didn't make sense.
Mhm.
I'm a child of five and she was able to do it. So I was like, well, if she done it with five kids, I could do it with one,
Yeah.
So that's where I think for me, it didn't change my priorities, it centered it. It made it
Mhm.
more focal point to say, you're still doing what you want to do, but
Mhm.
how does that work now that you've got a child and the kind of mother? Because you have to take it into consideration. If you're a mother that doesn't mind that and can do both and can find that setting, that's fine. But for me, it didn't feel, and it doesn't work in that industry to be able to do that. So I had to kind of jiggle a few things around to suit my lifestyle while still keeping the person I am. And I think that's important as a woman, as a professional, to say that you can do both, but just find those ways in which you can do that.
That's really, really good. So, the title of our show is Maintaining Your Mental Health Through Mediation. So, you talk about mediation as one of the best processes to maintain your mental health. What do you mean by that?
Well, I believe it is because I think as people, we struggle sometimes to understand or know. And if we do know, to actually ask for help. And sometimes that help has to be outside of us. So, where in mediation, it's not me choosing, it's not like a decision where a judge says you're wrong, you're right. And even if they're not simply saying you're wrong or right, it tends that there's a winner, there's a loser. And in this
Mm,
process, you're able to maintain your mental health because you're able to be heard. Most people just want to be heard.
mhm,
Yeah, it's people say I want to be right. Actually, before that step of them wanting to be right, they want to be heard, and that's why we have the saying of you're listening to me, but you're not hearing me, or depending how you look at, you're hearing me, but you're not listening to me, because they
mhm,
don't feel like there's a connection, there's a miscommunication, there's a disconnect somewhere, even if that other person is hearing what's been said. And once you get to the root of actually understanding what somebody's saying, even if you don't fully agree with it, because a lot of people think in these process that you have to fully agree. You don't. Hear them
mhm,
out first, understand what they're saying, but you can slightly and go, I still don't agree with it.
mhm,
And that is a better step, because then you're able to heal and understand yourself. You're able to have a communication and a conversation, and then you're also able to be in a process of actually trying to say, right, I can see where I went wrong, but also I can see how that person went wrong too, without having to kind of blame and point the finger, because I tend to think that when you're pointing the finger at somebody else, you're pointing three back at you, right?
mhm,
So this helps your mental health because you're able to have a conversation that is constructive. You're able to communicate in a way in which it enables you to express yourself fully, while still enabling the person to be listened to and be heard, and actually communicate in a way where you think, okay, if I'm able to do it, I can have the support of somebody who's independent, who's neutral, and isn't going to sit there and blame me for everything or sit there and blame the other person. Nobody's really wrong, nobody's really right. What's happened here is a misunderstanding, but how do we get to a place where you can resolve it and be happy enough? And I have to
mhm,
stress on the enough, because there's no 100%, but it's been in a place to say, okay, I don't fully agree with this, or I don't fully understand this, but I'm a better position to take on that information. And if I can't do something with it now, I can use that to really develop, because
Mhm.
it's not about making a finalized decision at that time. It's saying what are the skills I need in order to develop this and be in a better place to understand. And that really goes to your mental health. You know,
Mhm.
that's the first thing. If your mind generally is clear, your health would generally, you know, be impacted in a positive way, because your mind's not cluttered with things that, you know, doesn't need to be there, or it doesn't lack any clarity because you haven't had a conversation. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what sort of person needs a mediator? What situations would you be in where a mediator would be a really useful resource to have?
I would definitely say, because we do quite a few areas, so we cover it in civil and commercial. So that's anything if there's a breakdown of a contract, whether you consider it to be a breach or not, there's a misunderstanding there. And I like to use the word misunderstanding because sometimes it is really just that, but it's been blown out of proportion because obviously people have different views. If it comes to an employment situation, it can be between line managers, it can be between shareholders, directors. It can also be between, you know, employees when you're working in a team and there's like, you know, two of you possibly, or even 10 or 20, but there is a bit of a conflict, a bit of a like, well, you know, character or personality clash. Those where that can come in the workplace. In against where it's about family, I would say where you've got, you know, a husband and a wife, or spouses, because obviously we've got same sex, you know, relationships as well, and
Mhm.
it's a breakdown in communication. And you may be going through a separation or divorce, or you may need to say, look, we've separated and divorced already, but we just don't know what's going on with the kids. Where are we putting the kids? You know, am I coming around on
Mhm.
Saturdays or Sundays? So it's those kind of things. And it's definitely something that's used also preemptive.
Mhm.
Mediation is kind of seen as, oh, when it's all gone wrong, or, you know, everything's hit the fan, the volcano's exploded.
Yeah.
Let's call upon someone, or someone as, you know, as a mediator, because someone could be also a counselor or a therapist. It should be something where you see there's a miscommunication and it could escalate.
Mhm.
Just even that possibility, let's call in a mediator, because we want to be in a position where this doesn't grow any bigger than it needs to. So yeah, those are the types of scenarios based on the areas that we do. But really, I would say start with a misunderstanding, a little bit of a breakdown in
Mhm.
communication, bring on a mediator, because it's preemptive and it's reactive.
Okay. Brilliant. So, how does mediation help with sort of so we're talking about some kind of communication process, something's broken down, something's not right, whether that's a contract, whether that's a relationship, but it all involves people. So you're mediating with people, yeah? So how does you, with through mediation, how do you help rebuild those personal, professional relationships?
For me, I do you know what, people have been asking me that lately, like, what is your best tool? And I have to say it's the way I do it,
Mhm.
because obviously you can get any mediator and everyone can say this is the process, but not everybody engages in that process like I do. And some of the things I do, I mean, I tap into my spirituality. I've had mediators, or mediation, should I say, where I've looked upon the parties and can see like, the way they're tapping their feet, the way their hands are moving. Okay, that person looks like they're feeling very anxious, so much so they can have an anxiety. Now, I'm no doctor, but I
Mhm.
look at signs like that. Body language is important because I want to be in tune with them, so they equally can trust me and understand what I'm there to do. No, I'm not the enemy. Most of them know that. That's why they've called me. But then I become the person of help. And if
Mhm.
I'm not in tune with what's going on with them, whether I know them or not, and someone might say, well, how do you know? They just might generally tap their hand, but I'm looking at those. I'm
Mhm.
looking at those things. So I tap into them, and I generally just get them to a place of just a calming nature. Some of these issues I deal with can be quite entrenched. It's gone on for a year, 2 years
Mhm.
plus. And it's making sure that I understand them enough to say that I'm not your friend. I'm here to be supportive, but I'm also comforting to the situation. And I'm here to support you, and doing that with the other party too, because obviously there has to be at least two. And I really take pride in that, because that's who I am. I don't do this because it's a process. That's how I am as a person. So I tap into my own personal traits in order to be able to be the mediator, the professional mediator that I am. And it's really about how I make people feel, and how I make them be understood, and I understand them, in order to bring them together to say, oh, actually, oh, yeah, I get it now, or I didn't know that before, or, you know, when she explained it or he explained it that way, now I get it. I'm able to pull that out of them, because we all have our own toolbox. But my gift is really being able to allow those parties to understand that you have that toolbox and you can pull it out. And if you're unable to do it as you think you are, then I'm going to support you in doing that.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. You talked earlier about winners and losers, and so there's a few things I suppose about personal relationships that it can be quite. I want to say you quite can feel quite vulnerable, I guess. I'm imagining I've never used a mediation service before, but I have been in when I have considered it. And how do you sort of manage that sort of I guess the law can be quite adversarial, can't it? And a mediation is a solution, I guess, to prevent that adversarial um, outcome, I suppose. But we're in that adversarial system already, and so people might feel a way about winning and losing. So how do you help people come to a solution where as you said earlier, where they might not get everything they want, um, and but to feel okay with that.
Well, for me, it's about just explaining the process, how it actually works. It's making sure they know that I'm not here to decide upon facts. You don't need to actually bring here and say the fact is this and the evidence is this.
Mhm.
What is it you want? We include your feelings. Whereas in a court, you're not including your feelings, don't matter.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if I'm morally wrong or right. What are
Mhm.
the facts? Where's the
Mhm.
evidence? What does the law say about that evidence? So
Mhm.
for me, it's about that. Now, in commercial disputes, it's not to say it doesn't come in, but generally, and it might be a little bit less about feelings, but workplace employment and family, definitely it's heavily on how this person feels, what that was said, how it was said. We ask about that. I'm
Mhm.
able to ask you, how did that make you feel? In a court, that would never happen.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
about tapping into those emotions and
Mhm.
saying, actually, even if those emotions are raw,
Mhm.
let's tap into it. Where's that come from? Why has that happened? What did that person say or do to, enlighten that, to trigger that off, if there was a trigger?
Mhm.
So for me, this is where I think my holistic approach comes into it, and it feels quite therapeutic and
Mhm.
kind of counseling ish kind of way, because I am tapping into those emotions and I'm saying they are important, but
Mhm.
equally, how do we manage them, and how do we manage them in a way where you can express it to the other party who maybe doesn't even have a clue that they existed and actually they hurt you in that way.
Mhm.
So that's where for me that there isn't the win or lose, because I'm able to tap into those emotions that matters, whereas a court, a judge is not able to do that, not because they don't care, but because that's, like you said, it's adversarial. Whereas in a process of mediation, it isn't. It's not based on your evidence. You bring evidence, you can bring some, facts, but it's more based on how you also feel and what you want from it. So that's what's included.
That's brilliant. And you also talk, and you sort of explained a bit already about the benefits of not sort of like going into that legal process because it's so adversarial and it's not about emotions and stuff like that. So talk to a little bit more about what the benefits of sort of like going through the mediation rather than going to court. I'm imagining that financial is one of them, but there are others.
Yeah, so I suppose when I say the big thing, it isn't always the big, because obviously if I'm dealing with corporations that can afford it, that's not actually appealing to them. They're like, well, regardless or not, I'm happy to pay it, or I can pay it. But that is obviously for someone who's an SME, that's somebody who's an individual, that would be an appealing trade, that they're able to, save some money. So it's a cost-effective process. Also time, you go to court, and it's not just now. People say, oh, court now, it's been like that for a number of years. It might have
Mhm.
been a bit worse due to some of the events that's happened over the last few years,
Mhm.
but we all know that you've got a claim form, and then you may not get a hearing until 2 to 3 months, if not,
Mhm.
on a good time, maybe 6 months. So you're waiting 6 months just to be heard. Remember, we
Mhm.
talked about being heard. People want to be
Mhm.
heard a lot more quicker. So then, and then when you go in, it generally means that on average, if you are putting a claim form, you're going to court at least 2 to 3 times. Because you
Mhm.
have to see, the fact is that maybe they haven't got the evidence all there, or you haven't filed something correctly. But with mediation, you're looking at 3 hours to a couple of days to resolve that. Now, is it going to completely eradicate it? No, but it's going to minimize it. It's like thinking you've got to take out a tooth. If you can go to the dentist tomorrow, why would you say, well, I'm going to wait a whole year just to so that
Mhm.
I can pull out the tooth myself? It
Mhm.
just doesn't make any sense. So you are getting your time back. You are getting your peace of mind. It goes back to the well-being as well. If your mind is clear in a few hours to a few days, as opposed to sitting there saying, oh, I've got to wait for a judge to give a decision in a year, because that's how the process works, you save time. It also enables you to keep it private and confidential. Anything in court is completely public knowledge.
Mhm.
Somebody can find out that you went to court. You might, oh, I don't want anyone to know. It's public knowledge. So this is private and confidential. There's a confidentiality, clause or agreement where you sign between you both that you don't tell anybody else, unless obviously it's a consensual thing. So nobody needs to know that, you know, you've got dirty laundry. We've all got it. And it's not a case that you're, you know, trying to hide it, but equally it's nobody else's business. So you're able to be protected by that private and confidentiality. It's also a place where you can rebuild relationships. This is really good, not only on a personal and individual level, but businesses. You might have to work with that company again. You don't want to be in a place that it's completely destroyed. Well, that's it. You know, breach of contract, not speak to them again. You're able to build that up and then use them again. So that's a really great thing as well. I mean, there are a plethora of reasons why mediation, but I would definitely say the time, the cost, your mental health, the fact that you're able to come to a resolution that you want. You know, some things that it can be agreed upon parties where if you were to go to a judge and ask that, they'd be like, we can't grant that because the law doesn't allow us. But if you actually go away, which most judges are doing now, go away and discuss it yourself and work it out, which is why they're encouraging it also, because they actually don't want to decide on somebody that they don't know. You're able to make a more favorable agreement to what you need, as opposed to one that the law only can decide upon. So yeah, those are the general things. But I mean, I just love the fact that your health, that people feel generally better after it. If that's the only thing they get out of it, I feel better.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, I always ask my guests about their health and well-being, and most of my guests are business leaders, you know, business owners, entrepreneurs, and as one myself, I recognise that sort of like running a business and, you know, helping people has its there's a lot of toll on yourself personally. So I always ask my guests, how do they stay focused, positive and productive, and how they maintain their own health and well-being as they go about their literal business. So how does that help? How do you do that, Selina?
Do you know what? I have quite a few things. I think the main thing is, though, other than the things I want to mention, which they all feel very main, but I've realized more, even more recently, it's surrounding myself with like-minded and positive people. I come from a big family and we're all very jovial as well. We all get on very well. Like I said, I'm a child of five, so I'm a middle child, and my siblings are literally my best friends. So, and they will tell me how it is, and I will still have the love from them, but they will equally tell me, you know, and be my cheerleader when it's necessary. But in a sense of me and outside of them, because I always think that any practice you do, you need to have a practice or rituals in place that doesn't involve other people, because that's when it all starts to fall. So for me, it's about making sure that I have, you know, I'm very connected with God. I'm a spiritualist. So I make sure I have prayer in the morning. I need to connect with God. I need that time. I need to know that I need to fill my own cup up before I can give somebody else. And by doing that, I'm able to be the best I can be, not only for me, but for everyone else. And for me, it's that time with God. I do that. I go for morning walks or morning runs, because to me, I like being at one with nature. I live in quite a rural area. So just, I don't know, it just that air. It's a
Yeah,
different type of air than in the city, right?
definitely.
Just making sure that I'm working out, and I feel good when I'm working out. I'm a person that loves doing that. It's not a chore for me. And if it was, it would become a love, because I know that it's important for your health to stay healthy. I have an 11-year-old child, and I want to be racing him down the road, and we do that. You know, I will race him like, come on, let's go. And I'm not sitting there going, oh, I'm getting too old now. He's like, Mum, you know, he's catching up to me now.
Hmm.
Something I love doing. For me, outside of that, and I need to do this a little bit more, is meditation. It's about making sure that you have affirmations. I do my prayers and I include my affirmations, more so declarations, because when you're declaring it to yourself, it's more like a promise, whereas
Yeah,
affirming, will be like, well, I was saying that, but I don't kind of feel like that today. So I'm
yeah,
lying to myself. So I declare it to myself, but it's also making sure I'm feeding it into me. So I try, you know, my sister's kind of got me into this. I try go to sleep with it on. So because then I'm tapping into my subconscious, and I'm
hmm,
basically saying and being told the things that I not only need, but I believe I am. You know, I do this. So for me, I make that a daily thing. Even if I don't do all of them, generally it's definitely prayer and exercise, because I love it. At least 4 to 5 times a week, in regards to the exercise, prayer every single day, absolutely. And just, yeah, meditation, but mostly being around people that are able to be honest with me, and to keep it real, but also come from a loving place. And I definitely have that through friends and definitely family. And my circle is very small because of
yeah.
that.
Love that. That's lovely. Really, really nice. Thank you for that. I also have asked my guests for a favorite book, a book recommendation. And what's your book recommendation for us, Selena?
Oh, I've got so many, but I have to say, What's really stuck in my head is really The Power of Consistency by Weldon Long. And the
Mhm.
reason why that's stuck in my head so much, because I mean, the title itself, The Power of Consistency,
Mhm.
we need to be consistent with anything you do, regardless how challenging it is. If you're consistent, you will pull through. And that title alone, but the whole book, I mean, if anyone felt like they wasn't doing enough, or if they felt like they was in the worst place ever, read that book. And whilst I don't always recommend comparing your situation or to feel better, but sometimes you really need to understand it and say, well, if that person was able to do that in that environment, what's my excuse? And
Mhm.
I feel like, without giving the book away, because some people might not have read it yet, reading that, I think you would feel that way. You may not, you may feel a little bit like, oh, well, I don't know, because it's different. But I generally feel like you'll get that little bit out of it to say, do you know what? It really is about mindset. And that book really holds true to, if you put your mind in the right place, even if your environment, your reality is not
Yeah.
that, it will then become your reality.
I love that. That's really, really good. I like that. I like that. I like the book recommendations because I love books, and I haven't heard of that one, and I haven't definitely haven't read it. So I'm going to give that one a go, and we'll put all of that into the show notes of the podcast and on the YouTube channel. So you have a gift for our listeners and our viewers, and can you tell us about that, Selina?
Yes. So, as a gift, because I think when it comes to these kind of situations, people do worry about not only the timing, but also the costs. And I think it's important for me to know that I want to tap into everybody. Like, I know you can't help every single person, because most of the time people have to help themselves before you can help them.
Hmm.
Generally, sometimes the barrier is, oh, how much is it going to cost? And it's legal. And,
Hmm.
you're raking up a bill. So, we want to offer, them a free 30-minute consultation. Give
Hmm.
us a call. You won't have to be charged. Tell us your life. I will support you. The team will be here, and we're able to do that. And equally, and we want to put you in a position where you're not feeling like it's going to be so much. And if it is, it's worth it. But we're going to offer you 10% of any of our mediation services. So,
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And the details of that will be definitely in the show notes as well. How do people get hold of you, Selina, if they've liked what they've heard or they may need some mediation services or just want to hear about what you're up to at the moment?
well, I mean, we have a website, so you can, follow us on there and have a look on our website there. I mean, most of it's actually there as well. So it's www.smgmediation.co.uk. And we're
Hmm.
also on the socials at SMG Mediation. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and also LinkedIn with my name, but also the company name as well. And we're on Snapchat. And what else are we on? I mean,
You're
Twitter.
on all the socials,
I'm
man.
literally on any social that we're actually not at the moment. It's Pinterest, if that's even considered as one, but pretty much
Yeah.
all social. So as long as you put in my full name, which is also Selina Morgan-Gayle, as we know, and then or SMG Mediation, you will find that, because we'll have a company page as well as obviously my personal. So connect with me, reach out, and just know that everything's private and confidential. So that's great as well. You'll
Brilliant.
by that. But yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Selina. It's been so good to hear about everything that you do, and it's a little bit different from the usual sort of businesses that I hear about. But also, I really like the links to how it is linked to your positivity and your well-being. If you can have that sorted, if you can have some support with that, I really, really like that. How I usually end the show is I ask for, I guess, for one bit of wisdom, actionable tip, or fact that they can take away with them.
Oh, got so many, but I would have to say one of the, I suppose, mantras that I live by: if you believe you deserve, then God will serve. And I
Oh,
think
I like that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, that is wonderful. So thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. That's it for the Dawn Jarvis show today. If you've enjoyed it, like, subscribe, share, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care and bye bye.